I'd like to welcome back to the stage Ross Kauffman. We can sit down.
Let's sit down.
Okay. Can you all see us still?
We can see you better like this.
I'm just going to open it up to the audience. Does anybody have any questions?
Anyone? Come on, someone's got a question.
There?
What is the background of these people that work as these human rights activists? How do they come to that kind of place where they're doing that kind of work?
So the question was, what's the background of the subjects and how do they come to the place where they're doing this kind of work?
You know, it's a lot of different ways that they come to this work. Some are lawyers, some are journalists. It just depends on, you know, their particular way that they got to where they got to, but they all have sort of a particular way of attacking a situation and attacking a problem. Sorry, it's like, can we turn those down? Is that possible? Yeah, and so it's all different backgrounds. But, you know, obviously a law degree helps tremendously. They do a lot of training once they become researchers, and once they join the E-team, they continue that training. So, say for instance, I mean, just like a CSI investigator, you know, they're investigating a site of a massacre. You know, if they turn over the wrong piece of evidence, or if they don't interview the person in the right way, then they have no chance of using that testimony. So they have to be, they're really well trained. They come from all different backgrounds.
Over here?
You're welcome.
I'm just wondering, how difficult was it to get access to Human Rights Watch for them to allow you to have that contract?
The question was, how difficult was it for you to get access to Human Rights Watch to let you allow it to make them film?
Yeah, it was one of those things where they hadn't let anyone in to their organization before. They hadn't even thought about giving anyone full access to make an independent film with total creative control, warts and all. And that was the only way that Katie and I were going to go into this endeavor. It was never going to be anything but, you know, we have final cut, we have final say, and we're going to show the good, the bad, and the ugly. But much to Human Rights Watch's credit, especially Carol Bogert, who's in the film, she wanted this. She thought this would be a good thing not only for the organization, because she believed in the organization, she believes in her organization. They don't have a lot to hide. Even though, as you can see, things are difficult once you get into the minutiae of really making those tough decisions. But she had faith that we would tell an honest and fair story. And she felt like she didn't have to worry with us. And you know, she also knew that based on my track record and Katie's track record, Katie did a film called Deadline, incredible film, came out, premiered at Sundance in 2004, and I did Born to Brothels. And with our track record, she really felt like if anyone was going to tell the story, it was us.
Over here?
Yeah, was there an issue with making these activists famous? So some of their security is sneaking into countries and nobody knows who they are.
Was there an issue with making the activists famous below their security of sneaking into countries?
Well, I mean, as you can see, they're on CNN. They're on Al Jazeera. They're all over the news. Part of their mission is to get out the word of what's actually going on. So they were not concerned at all about their safety because they were in this film. They're out there already. Some people said, you know, well, you know, you're in Paris, you're in Berlin, you're in Geneva. I mean, the truth is, we have this thing, I think you've heard of it, called Google. You know, it's not hard to find people in this day and age. So they were pretty, they had no problem at all being in the film. They were much more concerned about the activists and the people in the film, and we had to vet every single person in that film, not only while we were filming to tell them what we were doing, but we had to go back. Ule especially, the Norwegian, oh God, Ule. I mean, he's so like a stickler for rules. And he's, Ross, we have to go back to every single person, and we have to talk to them, and we have to make sure that they are okay with being filmed now because things change so quickly. And so one of the things we had to do was really go back and be really tough, with ourselves and say, are you okay with this? And thankfully, everyone was fine. And even to the point where we had to do another online. We finished the film again in a way. We didn't re-edit it all, but we were supposed to blur out one of the fixers' faces. And myself being a persistent human being, up until the last moment, I said, well, let's just call him again and find out what's going on with him, because he was really hard to get in touch with. And we called him, and he said, no, it's fine now. Everything's fine. Situation is really calmed down, and I'm okay with being in the film. So we really took pains to make sure everyone was going to be safe.
Right here.
Could you speak more about the tension between those people who do the basic work of the organization and those who want to take it to the next level of calling for action? You had a bit of that in there. I know that the Red Cross, for example, had a lot of critics during the Rwandan genocide for not speaking out more about taking action. You touched on that in the film, about calling for a no-fly zone. There's a tension within the organization.
The question was, could you speak more to the tension within the organization between the people who do the basic work and the people that want to go the next step and more of a call to action?
This is one of those moments that I wish I could just get Anya Nule on the phone, because they would be much better prepared to answer that than I would be. But as you can see in the film, there are situations where they have to weigh the macro to the micro. They have to weigh that what is this going to do in the grander scheme of things, in terms of geopolitics, in terms of the world and the situation that, countries are going to get involved in if, say, an airstrike, or, a no-fly zone happens. I mean, they have to weigh these things with the fact that people are getting killed on the ground. And yeah, it causes friction, especially with the researchers who not only the E team who go into those places, but the researchers who are actually in those places and who are actually stationed in the Middle East. And in a way, you'd think the people who are stationed in the Middle East, they would feel more strongly like, we need to have an airstrike. But they're actually the people who are fighting not to have the airstrike, because they sometimes can see a more macro view than the emergencies team who go in and see sort of the worst of everything. And that's why I think it's actually, there's good checks and balances in this organization. And like I said, we were ready to show the good, the bad, and the ugly. And this is one of the things that it comes across as sort of difficult, but checks and balances are always difficult. I just want to answer one thing. James Foley.
Yeah.
So Jim Foley was one of the cameramen, cinematographers on the project, and Jim, on a separate project, on a different mission that he went in on his own to Syria, he disappeared on Thanksgiving Day, 2012, and Jim is still missing. He went missing before in Libya as well, and he came back. So we are holding out hope that Jim will be, coming back at some point. We're going to show the film in New Hampshire. His parents live in New Hampshire, so we're going to be showing the film in New Hampshire. As I think it's going to be in his hometown. So, we'll see what happens.
Back here.
Putin has
Putin.
that guy.
That guy.
But at the time of Kosovo, kind of rubbed it in the West's face. You're going to regret this. This isn't it, and he basically posited that Kosovo created a precedent for him. Sitting where you are now and watching what's happening in Crimea, and I thought it was admirable actually watching the dynamics at the border table with Carol Bogart. I thought you were a little too hopeful about the international court, but sitting where you are now watching Crimea, do you want to venture an opinion on that, about where Putin said, good, go in, make a difference? Because he's using this now as a reason to interview the Crimea.
I mean, in terms of Crimea, in terms of Ukraine, I mean, it's, I can't actually.
Yeah.
I mean, basically,
You asked for opinion on Putin's statement about Kosovo and
how it's
whether
affecting
you regret it or not.
how it's affecting Crimea at this point in time. I mean, listen, it's a huge, huge issue, and Putin is a very complicated human being. Let's put it nicely. And it's funny because Anya has been in Ukraine. She's been part of that. Once again, Anya would definitely be the person to answer this as opposed to me. I'm just a stupid filmmaker. Come on, please. But I feel like in terms of those ideas that, Putin used this and now he's using that, yeah, they're totally valid. This is how the world works. This is how it functions. And hopefully, with some oversight, we'll be able to, at some point, hold people accountable, whether it's Putin or Assad, who knows. But that's the point of their work, is to, and they were very clear, we can't necessarily stop what's going on now. Maybe we can make it a little less difficult for the people in it, and hopefully we can hold the people accountable to what they're doing now.
We have time for one more. I'm going to take one.
Just one more?
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
I thought the film was really great in showing what it's like.
She thought the film was really great.
In showing what it's like for one journalist to go into really incredibly difficult places, and I think that they must suffer from some kind of post-traumatic stress syndrome. But one of the things I thought immediately was that it was spending some time in the United States, that it wasn't very critical of the United States, as in my perception of the film.
Yeah.
Because I am so critical of the United States. And and we just heard on the radio just recently that the U.S. Killed a very young man through drones. And it's happening all the time. And they are not, it's just really bad, that they can do that. And they're not putting them through any
Is it fair to say, why weren't we more critical of the United States in this film? Is that sort of the
That's
question?
the question. So
I thought that
I was getting there.
Yeah. And it's a good question. It's a great question. For us, this film was not about pointing fingers at different people. I mean, obviously we see Syria and we see Assad and we see what's going on there. And we could have gone into how Obama said this is the red line, and it wasn't the red line, and it was the red line, and it wasn't the red line. And in films and movies, we only have so much time to tell the stories that we need to tell. There are human rights violations going on in America that Human Rights Watch covers in America. And it's funny because we are actually considering doing a series of some sort about Human Rights Watch, or about these investigators, and that might be at that point appropriate to really focus that lens on that particular part of the world, i.e. America, or any of the other parts of the world for that matter. I mean, there's so many problems going on everywhere. So it was hard, it was tough, and another thing, it's like a lot of this, a lot of the news is from American point of view, the American point of view, and not all of it. In Russia is a little different, but it's hard. It's hard. You try to, as a filmmaker, tell the story as clearly and concisely and efficiently and effectively as possible. And sometimes you can't cover everything. And I totally understand what you're saying. And if we do a series, hopefully we can cover more of that. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Did Anya have a boy or a girl?
I'm not telling. No. Anya had a nice, cute little boy. I wish he was here. He was with us on a couple of other different screenings. He was at Sundance with us, Ari. And he is the most well-behaved 7-month-old ever. He's like Norwegian to the core. He never cries. Seriously, he'd be out with us till 1 in the morning, just sitting there in the corner. I was so pissed off. I have a 3-year-old. He was never that nice. Anyway, sorry. I just had to vent.
On that note, I want to thank Ross for coming.